Welcome to Malcolm Presents and our show Manning Up with Deborah Manning. Hi, Deborah. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great, Malcolm. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, but now we have lighting problems with you. Hopefully, we'll
I
figure it
know.
out because you're
I
dimming and we
know.
want to show your beautiful face.
We're gonna do something in terms of figuring out some lighting and what have you. I can hardly wait until spring. That's why I'm in my spring outfit, bright green. Boy, I've had enough of this winter time, and I'm sure you in California.
I see a man in the background. Do you know
Oh
that?
yeah, he was delivering my water, my dear husband. So how are you doing?
I'm not doing badly. At least the weather over here seems, at least for the next few days, it's sunshine. In the low 70s
Oh good.
with some clouds, but basically sunny.
Oh good. Well, we just got 3/4 of an inch of rain last night, which was nice. And it's just remarkable what pure water does. How Mother Nature delivers such pure water. Everything is going crazy. The daffodils are all up. And of course, I 4 or 5 years ago had planted maybe half a dozen daffodils. Well, you realize they reproduce like nuts. And I got to tell you, I've probably got close to 40 daffodils that are all waving in the breeze, looking absolutely gorgeous. And of course, when we bought the house here in South Carolina 8 years ago, one of my prerequisites was I really didn't want a front lawn particularly. I wanted to be able to do gardens. So my wish has come true. It's
Uh-huh.
starting to look a little bit like a Monet garden, almost. It's getting there.
What is that poem? My mind is going daffodils. Uh,
We'll have to talk about it. Maybe I could get a shot of what our front yard looks like
yeah,
because it's very nice, and it's cute because it's a great way to be able to meet your neighbors. We had a lady that was walking her two dogs yesterday and stopped and was like, "We need to talk. Your daffodils look beautiful, this and that, and what have you." And of course, then the irises are
yeah.
coming out.
I wandered lonely as a cloud way on high when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils.
Oh, very nice.
I think it was Walt
See,
Whitman or
see that came what, ninth grade?
yeah.
There
I
you go.
remember things from the ninth grade. What I remember from the ninth grade, oh Captain, my Captain. You know that one?
Oh no, tell me.
Oh, Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every rack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting. While follow eyes a steady keel, the vessel dim and daring. But heart, those bleeding drops of red. For on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. And that
The
was
things
about
you remember. Now that was from 8th grade or 10th
that.
grade?
I think it was ninth grade, maybe.
There you
That
go.
that that was a Lincoln assassination.
Oh
He
my
was a
god. Well, you
captain.
realize that I guess memorization is not a part of schooling anymore. I
Yeah.
guess not. It's funny because I remember when I was a kid that we had to memorize the Gettysburg Address. We had to obviously the Declaration of
Four
Independence.
score and
We
7 years ago, our
Oh yeah,
forefathers brought for this
we had
country a new
we had to
nation.
memorize all 50 of the state capitals. We had to
Yeah.
memorize our times tables, and
Well,
all of those things have gone by the wayside, I think.
yeah, the times table is very important just to
Yeah,
do arithmetic.
of course.
And you know, the times table, that's what taught my sons, who's actually on the 26th of February is going to be 29 years old.
Wow,
My son Jonathan.
wow.
But anyway, so what have you been doing this week? You told me you had a meeting with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, I was in a meeting with Marjorie Taylor Greene, as well as many other Republican women from the Republican Greenville County Republican women. And I have to tell you, what a spitfire she is in person. She might stand 5'4", if that. She is a great speaker, wonderfully adept at numbers, and as I say, a very good speaker. What was very interesting to me was that the number of people that she attracted. Now, keep in mind, she is a congresswoman from Georgia, and it was her amendment, I guess you would call it. She's done four separate impeachment attempts on President Biden, And her last impeachment attempt against Secretary Mayorkas, who's the head of the border, finally went through. And that received a standing ovation here in South Carolina, because the border issue is really becoming a real hot issue for all of us. In fact, I attended a crime meeting last night, where many people are starting to put together the neighborhood watches. And once again, there were people that were concerned that, well, gee, if I walk at night, is there a possibility that people might report me or something like that? And we all said, oh, for crying out loud, if you're running around all in black and having a flashlight at 11:30 at night and prowling around people's backyards, yeah, we might, but just walking, no, you don't have to worry about it. So there's a real fine line for all of that, because
Unless you're Latino
South,
or black.
well, South Carolinians, are very much very independent. They have a history of being independent. Obviously, they were the first state that the Civil War started, and once again, tomorrow is going to be a seminal day, because that's the day in which all South Carolinians go, at least for the Republican side, and vote President Trump or Nikki Haley. And I have to tell you, just in monitoring what's been going on with all of our neighbors, many of our neighbors went for early voting, which was great. They all thought they were going to avoid the lines. They didn't avoid the lines. My across the street neighbors said to me that the line yesterday, day before yesterday, streaked for miles, which means
Mm.
at this point right now, people are extremely interested in the voting process. My husband and I like to wait until election day. I suppose that's the old fashioned way of doing things, but it's kind of nice meeting all of your neighbors in the area.
Yeah,
So we'll be going to Duncan Chapel
but
Elementary
this,
School and
but this is
casting our vote
but this is
for
the
either
primary.
Donald Trump or for Nikki Haley.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah. But this is a primary. It has nothing to do with really the real election, or is this a I mean, this is a primary to get on the ballot, right?
Yeah, this is a primary to choose the Republican nominee.
Right.
And
And
the
but
ads
Nikki,
the ads have been really something. They've been quite let's say vicious. I was very surprised at the tenor of the ads, especially on the Haley part of things.
well,
Um,
I mean, right now it's they say Trump is going to win by at least 20 points.
well, judging from the number of people standing in line for early voting, it's going to be interesting to see. Are those Haley voters? Are those Trump voters?
Mm.
Once again, I'll let you know next week. We'll know by,
Okay,
by
no,
Saturday evening. But
now,
it'll be interesting. Nikki Haley was not really particularly liked here in South Carolina, primarily because of the overuse, many people felt, of tax funds to be able to attract corporations coming here to South Carolina. South Carolina had plenty to offer: affordable housing for all the employees,
Mm.
great land space to be able to put in factories, a corporate headquarters, a whole variety of different things. And yet she insisted upon giving away tax benefits. The latest one, for example, to Volkswagen. They also gave one away to an electric bus company that has now subsequently gone belly up and gone bankrupt. So many of those things really caught in people's craw. And the other thing that is caught in people's craw is when there was the attack of the murdering of the church members in the AME church. The Confederate flag was at full staff, while at half staff was the U.S. flag. And there was a great to do about whether the Confederate flag should have been lowered. No kidding, it should have been lowered. And in fact, it was just about the time that my husband and I were about ready to close escrow. Of course, as native Californians, we were a little bit concerned about whether the old vestiges of prejudice and what have you still resided in South Carolina. And I did say to my realtor, if they don't take the Confederate flag down to a half mast, I think we need to go someplace else in terms of buying a home. Just in the nick of time, Nikki Haley went to the lawmakers and said, take it down to half staff. In fact, they actually took it completely on down.
Yeah, well, the
So,
question was, did they want to take it completely down, and that it shouldn't be flying at all.
well, once again, I'm not here as a Californian. I'm of live and let live situation. I am surprised. I continue to be surprised, and I suppose that's not the right way to put it, but it's the way I feel. I'm surprised still at the fact that a lot of people like to fly the Confederate flag. I don't know. It seems to me like it would be flying the Nazi flag,
Right.
but I just find it's out of place. It's out of step. But many people feel as though it's part of history. In fact, it is part of history
Yeah.
here. Unbelievable things have happened here in South Carolina. In fact, South Carolina was absolutely pivotal in the American Revolution. Francis the Swamp Fox was absolutely a critical part of defeating the British and led to the defeat in Yorktown with Cornwallis. So those bits and pieces of history are very much alive here in South Carolina. Unlike in California, I don't know that I really had that feeling of history, particularly in California, but you have it back here in South Carolina. So tomorrow's election will be rather interesting. The polls open at 7, close at 7. We'll probably be there around 11 o'clock or so after we get our chores done. So at any
Yeah,
rate,
well, I think again, it's almost like a foregone conclusion that Trump will win.
well,
But by the way,
once again, it'll be very, very interesting. It'll be very interesting.
what do you think about Trump wanting to use campaign money to pay his attorneys?
Well, I think maybe he might want to do a GoFundMe page. I think there'd be plenty of people that would donate to a GoFundMe page.
But he wants
Go ahead.
he has he's wants his daughter-in-law to head up the RNC.
Well, she's supposed to be vice chair.
Yeah, and she wants to help the raise funds for his attorneys through the funding of the RNC and other
Well,
Republicans.
well, once again, as a Republican, and I am a Republican, I think that maybe a GoFundMe page might be a better way of doing
Right.
things. Um, I I just don't think it's a good idea to do. When I'm donating to the particular candidate, whatever candidate that is, and to get them into office. And I understand where Trump is coming from. Unbelievable the number of lawsuits, especially, for example, the judge not giving Trump enough time to be able to come up with the $463 million that he has now been assessed because he lost the fraud case in New York, and not giving him a 30-day period of time. I think we're really cresting
I think they
here
gave him a
on
30-day
election
period of time.
interference.
They gave him
I
a
beg your
30-day
pardon?
period. I think they gave it to him, but he has to pay interest on it.
Yeah, and it's $100 million worth of interest. So,
Yeah, but for a guy like Trump, who's a billionaire,
well, nonetheless, I think in terms of fairness, I did find it interesting and very alarming that the judge had already decided that Trump was guilty without any witnesses, without any
no, no,
testimony.
no,
And
no,
when,
no,
in
no,
fact,
no,
the testimony
yeah,
came
but
through, the testimony was that the bank officials had done their due diligence. The loan had been paid back in full with full interest, and that they were perfectly satisfied with the client. So, and
well,
I've been in banking. I've been in banking for 25 years after I came off my stint as being a news reporter. So it's 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 beholden to the bank to make sure that they examine the viability of each and every one of the clients, and that's what I did for years and years, and that's what you do.
so do you think it was bank's responsibility to call out Trump and say, no, you don't, your property is not worth that much?
Well, actually, what you would end up doing is you would refuse the loan. As the loan officer, I had the ability of refusing a loan based on my outside investigation of assets and liability. And did I do it? You bet. Plenty of
But
times I did.
I have a question which never came up, and I don't know if you
Hmm.
know the answer. Supposedly, I thought that the loan was given by Deutsche Bank.
Yes.
It wasn't Deutsche Bank. A lot of the investors are part of the Russian oligarchy.
Well, once again, I don't know that anybody could actually know that or not. Once again, when I worked for Bank of America, and you were not there to disclose exactly who your clients were. I worked for some very interesting clients, to say the least, but I certainly didn't advertise who the clients were. I think that perhaps could be a little bit of embellishment, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. You
But,
don't advertise who your wealthy clients are. That's just
but,
not the
but
banking
if I
way.
remember, but if I remember correctly, when the son-in-law got his loan, it was from Deutsche Bank, and every other bank turned him down. And
Well,
then,
once again, it's their prerogative.
yeah,
It's their
I know, but
prerogative
again,
to turn them down.
but a lot of the money was, in the big investors are the Russian oligarchy. But anyway, okay, other news. What do
Yes.
you think of the Alabama's Supreme Court decision about frozen embryos?
I think the unintended consequence of the decision is that it's going to deny childless couples from having children. I think that's what the unintended consequences are going to be.
Mhm.
An embryo cannot stand on its own. It cannot breathe. It doesn't have a heartbeat. And I know all of the pro-life people are probably going to turn me off at this point. Oh, she's a horrible person. No, an embryo
An
is a
embryo.
cell. It's a cell that has the man and the woman combination inside of it, but it is not a human being. I'm sorry. I don't care what the Supreme Court says, the Alabama Supreme Court says. It's just a road too far. It's just a road too far. I'm sorry.
But the question, which I have also is, it seems we're going to more a religious government. There's supposed to be a separation between church and state. And it seems now everything, a lot of the decisions that are being made, especially Alabama, it's almost God's will. It's God's, God says to preserve life. And when you, like Mark Johnson, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and they asked him, how are you going to run the government? He says, just read the Bible. That's the way I do it. I mean,
Well,
I,
as
I,
far as
I,
as far as the
I,
Alabama decision is decided, you know it's going to go to the Supreme Court. You know that.
yeah.
And well, it needs to go, and well, it needs to be depoliticized at this point.
You can't do that. Not with not with where the Supreme Court is now. Like the new justices that came in said, the Trump justice, oh, we're going to listen to precedent. They were talking about Roe v. Wade, and the first chance they had, they knocked Roe v. Wade down. I'm
Well,
expecting to see that. Yeah.
the other issue about Roe v. Wade is I am very happy that Roe v. Wade now put the decision back into the hands of the individual states, and thus of the individual people that live in those individual states. I'm very happy that actually happened. However, to have Alabama make a sweeping decision that an embryo is a human being, as a child, is a step too far, and that's where we have an agreement here, Malcolm. That's where we have an agreement.
Yeah, well, the next step that they're going to have is they're going to ban birth control.
No, they
It's
won't.
going to
Would
be like
you
the
just
Catholic Church.
stop it?
It's going to be like the
Stop it.
Catholic Church.
Stop it.
You're
They're
not
not
going to
going to
be.
ban birth control. Stop
You're in
it.
danger. You might have other children unless you stop having marital relationships.
Stop it. Just
Wait,
stop it.
wait, take my word.
No, they're not going to ban birth control.
They said they wouldn't knock down Roe v. Wade.
No, but it's funny that I love the politicians that put this stuff out, and then the news media that climb onto this horse and start running for the finish line. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. All Roe v. Wade did was say individual states need to make up their own minds, and the individual states, it makes it so that the individual people that live in that state can make up their own minds. So in California, you're fine in terms of an abortion. Oregon, Washington, New York, all of these various types of states, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Here in South Carolina, I think they say that you can have it up to 6 weeks. Do I oppose that? Sorry, Republican people, I do oppose that. It should be at least 15 weeks. But once again, our lawmakers are listening to us as people, as their constituents, and I think that's an important thing. I think this broad brush with Roe v. Wade, saying all abortions, blah blah blah, and all of that. I mean, it just it's fear mongering that's going on, and it's totally unnecessary.
Why isn't that the Republican National Party trying to do a federal ban against abortion?
They're not going to be able to get it through.
Yeah, but they want,
It's not going to happen.
But they want to. The
If they
right
can
wing of the
want
party.
to, they can also want to have purple elephants. It's not going to happen, because bottom line is there's a lot of people like me that basically say this is nonsense, absolute nonsense. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, period. So stop listening to MSNBC, stop listening to CNN and the fear mongers. It's not going to happen. In your state in California, you can have abortions, all the way up. Here in my state, you got to make a decision in a 6-week period of time, and then you can have an abortion up to 6 weeks. So once again, it's the individual states and the individual people that live in those states that make the decision. And you know what? That's the way it needs to be.
And if you don't know you're pregnant, or you're pregnant by
well, you know what? I hate to tell you this. When I was worried that I was pregnant, I didn't have one of those little test things that you could get at the supermarket. You know when your period is going to start, okay? You know what you've done before your period starts. You just know, okay? This is not a surprise for many ladies. Well, maybe some there are.
Some there are.
And then you simply get one of these tests, you pee on it, and you find out whether you're pregnant or not. That's it. That's it. It's very, very simple. Sorry, end of story. End of story. I got to tell you.
Okay. And we're again, and there's something else I was going to ask you about, and I forgot now. With Trump talking about NATO, saying that telling the Russians that if he wouldn't back the NATO states that haven't paid their dues.
Well, let's put it this way, okay? Trump has a shaggy dog sense of humor, all right? And I understand where he was coming from in terms of saying, if you're not going to pay your fair share, why should we pay your fair share? I understand that. That's perfectly fine. On a practical level, however, I don't think in any way, shape, or form that he would abandon NATO if attacked. Now, the only problem that we have, and of course, this is the big deal, Marjorie Taylor Greene had talked about this in terms of support of NATO. I think the delineation here for many people, stop sending money to Ukraine, start sending weaponry, ammo, all of those things. Apparently the big concern, and it's my concern as well, there hasn't really been any audit of the money going into the Ukrainian government. And much of that money, many of those dollars are going for ancillary things like government pensions, pet projects, who knows what. If you go ahead, and if you don't want to have an audit, fine, but send them weaponry, send them ammo, send them all the things that they need to be able to defend themselves. So I differ quite a bit from the current Republican stance on all of this. I don't want money sent. You got to give them weapons. They got to be able to defend themselves.
The last I heard, they were talking about a lot of the money that they with prerequisite for Ukraine basically would be given to the armament factories in the U.S., hiring U.S. people, hiring work. So I get that reason. I don't know if they've been doing this all along. I have a feeling they were, because who else, could give them armaments, and they needed armaments more than anything else, more than,
Well, I do know that President Biden had withheld a number of the armaments over the past couple of months. Why? I really don't know. But I think the delineation needs to be that if you're going to give them money, there better doggone well be an audit. And as an ex-auditor myself, I want to know where the dollars are going. And I think that's the biggest
oh,
sticking point.
I agree with you. But
Yeah.
again, from what I've been hearing is that, they're saying that, that money goes to build armaments. Who else would build armaments for them? The
Well,
arms.
let's take a really interesting example here in South Carolina. What's coming before the county board of supervisors, for lack of a better term, they call it county council here. I know it in California is the county board of supervisors. But what's coming before the county council here in South Carolina for Greenville County is an increase of 1 cent on every transaction. It's going to be before the voters supposedly in November. They're putting together all of the language and blah blah blah. My concern, and I expressed that to my county council, was that fine, you can go ahead and charge me a penny for every transaction, okay, but in reviewing what happened with the budget that took place about 3 months ago, apparently the county administrator can move that money any which way he feels. So we may say that the 1 penny is going for the roads, but in fact, it's not going to the roads. If the county administrator decides that he wants to put it to a pet project, who knows, a shopping center someplace, affordable housing someplace, building a bridge someplace, he can do that. And I mentioned to my county council, I don't want that to happen. If I'm going to pay extra money in taxes, I want that money to go to what it's voting for. That would be roads. Same situation, I think, with Ukraine. If I'm going to go ahead and say to my lawmakers, go ahead, give money to Ukraine, I want to make sure it's going for armament, for weapons, for ammo.
Right,
And
right,
I'm not seeing that in the wording. I'm simply not seeing it in the wording. How about you? Are you?
Yeah, well, I haven't read the amendment or the bill for the I only see, that they asking so much money, and I see that without the armaments, we're falling into Putin's hands,
Mhm.
and Ukraine's going to fall, and then after Ukraine comes Poland, and it's all the other countries that border.
Well, I posted that. I
Russia.
posted that fear a year ago, 2 years ago, because we're coming up to the 2-year anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I posted it about 2 years ago saying that that is the reassembly of old time Russia.
Yeah,
And that's what Putin wants.
USSR.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
I think we need to be very aware of that.
and even if you do America first, that's our first defense,
Yeah.
is arming the country. It's the enemies of my enemy are my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if we don't like Ukraine, you have to arm them so they can defend themselves, because we don't want to send American troops in.
Well, exactly. But once again, I also don't understand why standalone bills funding Ukraine with armaments keeps going down in flames in terms of defeat. I don't get it.
And we-
Why do you keep linking Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel and the border in one simple gigantic bill? Why do we not have individual bills? And at this point right now, the Democratic leaders are saying, no, we want to put it all together.
No, they don't. They don't want, number one, they don't want to, maybe they want to put together the funding for Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine and Israel and
Freudian slip.
Taiwan together, but they would separate the immigrant
The border money, yeah.
funding, for the immigrants. But they had a bipartisan bill that was put through, that was worked out over months, and the Republicans turned it down.
On what?
On putting all of them together, putting the funding and the funding for the border, new border law, a new border
Well,
law.
I think once again that's a paper tiger, because once again the House sent over a very well constructed border bill, HR 2. I mistakenly put it as HR 1, HR 2. And the Democrats, Chuck Schumer, has refused to even bring it to the floor of the Senate. And once again, I shake my head. Why? Why wouldn't you bring that to the forefront? Because that's basically what the Republican Party is asking for, is they want the border to be protected because we have just an unbelievable number of people coming across
Oh,
the
I
border.
agree. Yeah. There hasn't been a law there in 40 years. I think since the Reagan administration.
Well, I mean, actually, the former administration was doing a pretty good job with the existing law that was there, but I obviously it did need to be revised. But
Anyway,
go ahead.
I hate to tell you our time is up.
Oh no, really?
Yeah,
Holy smoky!
we've been a half hour. We can talk about a half hour about nothing, but we just happened to speak
Okay.
about
Hey,
it.
I've got one. We're going to do a book recommendation each and every week. Okay. This is called First Lie Wins. Excellent book. It is a thriller, very well constructed. Started reading it. I normally read historic books and nonfiction, what have you. Nah, this is a good book. Pick it up at your library. It's intriguing, very well written. And as I say, I don't give recommendations lightly. So next week, what we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be meeting, of all things, it looks like Manning Associates is going to be getting some new clients, and it appears it could be candidates running for various county and city offices.
So you're getting back into politics.
I guess so, kicking and screaming, but
Yeah.
what the hey, why not?
Yeah. What's that line from The Godfather? Just when I thought I was getting out of it, they pulled me back in.
They pulled me back in. Precisely.
And
Well,
have
we'll
a
see you
good
next
week.
week.
Happy voting. Send my
All
love
right.
to
We'll
Fish.
talk later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to Manning Up, which is with Deborah Manning, this attractive woman. Actually, that's sexist, isn't it?
No, it's not. Stop it. It's perfect. It's perfect. Thank you.
With me, I'm Malcolm Berman. Please tune in us next week to Manning Up on malcolmpresents.com. Bye.
Bye.